THE BEGUILING OF GYLFI. 35. Then said Gangleri: "Which are the Asynjur?" Harr said: "Frigg is the foremost; she has that estate which is called Fensalir, and it is most glorious. The second is Saga; she dwells at Sokvabekkr, and that is a great abode. The third is Fyr; she is the best physician. The fourth is Gefjun; she is a virgin, and they that die maidens attend her. The fifth is Fulla; she also is a maid, and goes with loose tresses and a golden band about her head. She bears the ashen coffer of Frigg, and has charge over her foot gear, and knows her secret counsel. Freyja is most gently born, together with Frigg; she is wedded to the man named Odr. Their daughter is Hnoss; she is so fair that those things which are fair and precious are called Hnossir. Odr went away on long journeys, and Freyja weeps for him, and her tears are red gold. Freyja has many names, and this is the cause thereof, that she gave herself sundry names when she went out among unknown peoples seeking Odr. She is called Mardoll and Horn, Gefn, Syr, Freyja, Syr. Freyja had the necklace Brisingamen; she is also called Lady of the Vanir. The seventh is Sjöfn; she is most diligent in turning the thoughts of men to love, both of women and of men; and from her name love longing is called Sjafnir. The eighth is Lofn; she is so gracious and kindly to those that call upon her, that she wins Allfather's or Frigg's permission for the coming together of mankind in marriage, of women and of men, though it were forbidden before, or seemed flatly denied. From her name such permission is called Leave, and thus also she is much loved of men. The ninth is Var; she hearkens to the oaths and compacts made between men and women, wherefore such covenants are called vows. She also takes vengeance on those who perjure themselves. The tenth is Vor; she is wise and of searching spirit, so that none can conceal anything from her. It is a saying that a woman becomes ware of that of which she is informed. The 11th is Sin; she keeps the door in the hall, and locks it before those who should not go in. She is also set at trials as a defence against such suits as she wishes to refute; thence is the expression that Sin is set forward when a man denies. The 12th is Hlin; she is established as keeper over those men whom Frigg desires to preserve from any danger. Thence comes the saying that he who escape leans. Snotra is 13th; she is prudent and of gentle bearing. From her name a woman or a man who is moderate is called Snotr. The 14th is Gna; her Frigg sends into diverse lands on her errands. She has that horse which runs over sky and sea, and is called Hoof Tosser. Once when she was riding, certain of the Vanir saw her course in the sky; then one spake: "What flieth there, what fareth there, or glideth in the air?" She made answer: "I fly not, though I fare and in the air glide on Hoof Tosser, him that Hamskerpir gat with Gardrofa." From Gna's name that which soars high is said to gnefa. Sol and Bil are reckoned among the Asynjur, but their nature has been told before. 36. There are also those others whose office it is to serve in Valhall, to bear drink and mind the table service and ale flagons. Thus are they named in Grimnismal: Hrist and Mist I would have bear the horn to me, Skeggjuld and Skogul, Hildr and Thrudr, Hluk and Hrfjotur, Gull and Geirahud, Rangridr and Radgridr, and Reginleif; these bear the Einherjar ale. These are called Valkyrs; them Odin sends to every battle; they determine men's feyness and award victory. Gudr and Rota and the youngest Norn, she who is called Skuld, ride ever to take the slain and decide fights. Jord, the mother of Thor, and Rindr, Vali's mother, are reckoned among the Asynjur. 37. A certain man was called Gymir, and his wife Arboda; she was of the stock of the Hill Giants; their daughter was Gerdr, who was fairest of all women. It chanced one day that Freyr had gone to Hlidskjalf and gazed over all the world; but when he looked over into the northern region, he saw on an estate a house great and fair. and toward this house went a woman. When she raised her hands and opened the door before her, brightness gleamed from her hands both over sky and sea, and all the worlds were illumined of her. Thus his overweening pride, in having presumed to sit in that holy seat, was avenged upon him, that he went away full of sorrow. When he had come home he spake not, he slept not, he drank not, no man dared speak to him. Then Njordr summoned to him Skirnir, Freyr's foot page, and bade him go to Freyr and beg speech of him, and ask for whose sake he was so bitter that he would not speak with men. But Skirnir said he would go, albeit unwillingly, and said that evil answers were to be expected of Freyr. But when he came to Freyr, straightway he asked why Freyr was so downcast, and spake not with men. Then Freyr answered and said that he had seen a fair woman, and for her sake he was so full of grief that he would not live long if he were not to obtain her. And now thou shalt go and woo her on my behalf, and have her hither, whether her father will or no. I will reward thee well for it. Then Skirnir answered thus: he would go on his errand, but Freyr should give him his own sword, which is so good that it fights of itself. And Freyr did not refuse, but gave him the sword. Then Skirnir went forth and wooed the woman for him, and received her promise, and 9 nights later she was to come to the place called Barri, and then go to the bridal with Freyr. But when Skirnir told Freyr his answer, then he sang this lay: Long is one night, long is the second; how can I wait through 3? Often a month to me seemed less than this one night of waiting. This was to blame for Freyr's being so weaponless when he fought with Beli, and slew him with the horn of a hart. Then said Gangleri: "'Tis much to be wondered at, that such a great chief as Freyr is would give away his sword, not having another equally good. It was a great privation to him when he fought with him called Beli. By my faith, he must have rued that gift." Then answered Harr: "There was small matter in that when he and Beli met. Freyr could have killed him with his hand. It shall come to pass that Freyr will think a worse thing has come upon him when he misses his sword on that day that the sons of Muspell go a harrying." XXXVIII. Then said Gangleri: "Thou sayest that all those men who have fallen in battle from the beginning of the world are now come to Odin in Valhall. What has he to give them for food? I should think that a very great host must be there." Then Harr answered: "That which thou sayest is true. A very mighty multitude is there, but many more shall be, notwithstanding which it will seem all too small in the time when the wolf shall come. But never is so vast a multitude in Valhall that the flesh of that boar shall fail which is called Saehrimnir: he is boiled every day, and is whole at evening. But this question which thou askest now, I think it likelier that few may be so wise as to be able to report truthfully concerning it. His name who roasts is Andhrimnir, and the kettle is Eldhrimnir; so it is said here: Andhrimnir has in Eldhrimnir Saehrimnir sodden, best of hams; yet how few know with what food the champions are fed." Then said Gangleri: "Has Odin the same fare as the champions?" Harr answered: "That food which stands on his board he gives to 2 wolves which he has, called Geri and Freki; but no food does he need. Wine is both food and drink to him; so it says here: Geri and Freki the war mighty glutteth, the glorious God of hosts; but on wine alone the weapon glorious Odin aye liveth. The ravens sit on his shoulders, and say into his ear all the tidings which they see or hear; they are called thus Huginn and Muninn. He sends them at daybreak to fly about all the world, and they come back at undernmeal. Thus he is acquainted with many tidings. Therefore men call him Raven God, as is said: Huginn and Muninn hover each day the wide earth over. I fear for Huginn lest he fare not back; yet watch I more for Muninn." XXXIX. Then said Gangleri: "What have the champions to drink, that may suffice them as abundantly as the food? Or is water drunk there?" Then said Harr: "Now thou askest strangely: as if Allfather would invite to him kings or earls or other men of might, and would give them water to drink. I know, by my faith, that many a man comes to Valhall who would think he had bought his drink of water dearly, if there were not better cheer to be had there, he who before had suffered wounds and burning pain unto death. I can tell thee a different tale of this. The she goat, she who is called Heidrun, stands up in Valhall and bites the needles from the limb of that tree which is very famous, and is called Leiradur; and from her udders mead runs so copiously that she fills a tun every day. That tun is so great that all the champions become quite drunk from it. Then said Gangleri: "That is a wondrous proper goat for them. It must be an exceeding good tree from which she eats." Then spake Harr: "Even more worthy of note is the hart Eikthyrni, which stands in Valhall and bites from the limbs of the tree, and from his horns distills such abundant exudation that it comes down into Hvergelmir, and from thence fall those rivers called thus: Sid, Vid, Sukon, Sukin, Eikin, Svul, Guntra, Fjorm, Fimbultur, Gipul, Gupul, Gumul, Garfimul. Those fall about the abodes of the ^sir. These also are recorded: Tin, Vin, Tull, Hull, Grad, Gunthren, Nit, Nut, Nun, Hrun, Vina, Fegsvin, Tjodnuma. 40. Then said Gangleri: "These are marvellous tidings which thou now tellest. A wondrous great house Valhall must be. It must often be exceeding crowded before the doors." Then Harr answered: "Why dost thou not ask how many doors there are in the hall, or how great? If thou hearest that told, then thou wilt say that it is strange indeed if whosoever will may not go out and in; but it may be said truly that it is no more crowded to find place therein than to enter into it. Here thou mayest read in Grimnismal: 500 doors and 40 more, so I deem, stand in Valhall. 800 champions go out at each door when they fare to fight with the wolf." 41. Then said Gangleri: "A very mighty multitude of men is in Valhall, so that, by my faith, Odin is a very great chieftain, since he commands so large an army. Now what is the sport of the champions when they are not fighting?" Harr replied: "Every day as soon as they are clothed, they straightway put on their armour and go out into the court and fight and fell each other. That is their sport. And when the time draws near to Undernmeal, they ride home to Valhall and sit down to drink, even as is said here: all the Einherjar in Odin's court deal out blows every day. The slain they choose and ride from the strife sit later in love together." But what thou hast said is true. Odin is of great might. Many examples are found in proof of this, as is here said in the words of the ^sir themselves: Ash Yggdrasill's trunk of trees is foremost, and Skidbladnir of ships, Odin of ^sir, of all seeds Sleipnir, Bifrost of bridges, and Bragi of skalds, Habrok of hawks, and of hounds Garmr. 42. Then said Gangleri: "Who owns that horse Sleipnir, or what is to be said of him?" Harr answered: "Thou hast no knowledge of Sleipnir's points, and thou knowest not the circumstances of his begetting; but it will seem to thee worth the telling. It was early in the first days of the gods' dwelling here, when the gods had established the Midgard and made Valhall. There came at that time a certain wright and offered to build them a citadel in 3 seasons, so good that it should be staunch and proof against the Hill Giants and the Rime Giants, though they should come in over Midgard. But he demanded as wages that he should have possession of Freyja, and would fain have had the sun and the moon. Then the ^sir held parley and took counsel together, and a bargain was made with the wright that he should have that which he demanded if he should succeed in completing the citadel in 1 winter. On the first day of summer, if any part of the citadel were left unfinished, he should lose his reward, and he was to receive help from no man in the work. When they told him these conditions, he asked that they would give him leave to have the help of his stallion, which was called Svadilfari, and Loki advised it, so that the wright's petition was granted. He set to work the first day of winter to make the citadel, and by night he hauled stones with the stallion's aid. And it seemed very marvellous to the ^sir what great rocks that horse drew, for the horse did more rough work by half than did the wright. But there were strong witnesses to their bargain, and many oaths, since it seemed unsafe to the giant to be among the ^sir without truce, if Thor should come home. but Thor had then gone away into the eastern region to fight trolls. Now when the winter drew nigh unto its end, the building of the citadel was far advanced, and it was so high and strong that it could not be taken. When it lacked 3 days of summer, the work had almost reached the gate of the stronghold. Then the gods sat down in their judgment seats and sought means of evasion, and asked one another who had advised giving Freyja into Jotunheim, or so destroying the air and the heaven as to take thence the sun and the moon and give them to the giants. The gods agreed that he must have counselled this who is wont to give evil advice, Loki Laufeyarson, and they declared him deserving of an ill death if he could not hit upon a way of losing the right his wages, and they threatened Loki with violence. But when he became frightened, then he swore oaths, that he would so contrive that the right should lose his wages, cost him what it might. That same evening, when the right drove out after stone with the stallion Svadilfari, a mare bounded forth from a certain wood and whinnied to him. The stallion, perceiving what manner of horse this was, straightway became frantic, and snapped the traces asunder, and leaped over to the mare, and she away to the wood, and the right after, striving to seize the stallion. These horses ran all night, and the right stopped there that night; and afterward, at day, the work was not done as it had been before. When the right saw that the work could not be brought to an end, he fell into giant's fury. Now that the ^sir saw surely that the Hill Giant was come thither, they did not regard their oaths reverently, but called on Thor, who came as quickly. And straightway the hammer Mjollnir was raised aloft; he paid the right's wage, and not with the sun and the moon. Nay, he even denied them dwelling in Jotunheim, and struck but the one first blow, so that his skull was burst into small crumbs, and sent him down below under Niflhel. But Loki had such dealings with Svadilfari that somewhat later he gave birth to a foal, which was gray and had 8 feet, and this horse is the best among gods and men. So is said in Voluspa. Then all the powers strode to the seats of judgment, the most holy gods council held together, who had the air all with evil envenomed, or to the Ettin race odors maid given. Broken were oaths then, bond and swearing, pledges all sacred which passed between them. Thor alone smote there, swollen with anger; he seldom sits still when such he hears of. XLIII. Then said Gangleri: "What is to be said of Skidbladnir, that which is best of ships? Is there no ship equally great?" Harr replied: "Skidbladnir is best of ships, and made with most skill of craftsmanship; but Naglfar is the largest ship; Muspell has it. Certain dwarves, sons of Ivaldi, made Skidbladnir and gave the ship to Freyr. It is so great that all the ^sir may man it with their weapons and armaments, and it has a favoring wind as soon as the sail is hoisted, whithersoever it is bound. But when there is no occasion for going to sea in it, it is made of so many things and with so much cunning that then it may be folded together like a napkin, and kept in one's pouch." XLIV. Then spake Gangleri: "A good ship is Skidbladnir, but very great magic must have been used upon it before it got to be so fashioned. Has Thor never experienced such a thing, that he has found in his path somewhat so mighty or so powerful that it has overmatched him through strength of magic?" Then said Harr: "Few men, I ween, are able to tell of this, yet many a thing has seemed to him hard to overcome. Though there may have been something so powerful or strong that Thor might not have succeeded in winning the victory, yet it is not necessary to speak of it, because there are many examples to prove, and because all are bound to believe that Thor is mightiest." Then said Gangleri: "It seems to me that I must have asked you touching this matter what no one is able to tell of." Then spake Jafnharr: "That we have heard say concerning some matters which seem to us incredible; but here sits one near at hand who will know how to tell true tidings of this. Therefore thou must believe that he will not lie for the first time now, who never lied before." Gangleri said: "Here will I stand and listen, if any answer is forthcoming to this word; but otherwise I pronounce you overcome, if ye cannot tell that which I ask you." Then spake Thridi: "Now it is evident that he is resolved to know this matter, though it seem not to us a pleasant thing to tell. This is the beginning of this tale. Hoku Thor drove forth with his he goats and chariot, and with him that as called Loki. They came at evening to a husbandman's, and there received a night's lodging. About evening Thor took his he goats and slaughtered them both; after that they were flayed and borne to the cauldron. When the cooking was done, then Thor and his companions sat down to supper. Thor invited to meat with him the husbandman and his wife and their children. The husbandman's son was called Thjalfi, and the daughter Roskva. Then Thor laid the goat hides farther away from the fire, and said that the husbandman and his servants should cast the bones on the goat hides. Thjalfi, the husbandman's son, was holding a thigh bone of the goat, and split it with his knife, and broke it for the marrow. Thor tarried there overnight, and in the interval before day he rose up and clothed himself, took the hammer Mjollnir, swung it up, and hallowed the goat hides. Straightway the he goats rose up, and then one of them was lame in a hind leg. Thor discovered this, and declared that the husbandman or his household could not have dealt wisely with the bones of the goat. He knew that the thigh bone was broken. There is no need to make a long story of it; all may know how frightened the husbandman must have been when he saw how Thor let his brows sink down before his eyes; but when he looked at the eyes, then it seemed to him that he must fall down before their glances alone. Thor clenched his hands on the hammer shaft so that the knuckles whitened, and the husbandman and all his household did what was to be expected: they cried out lustily, prayed for peace, offered in recompense all that they had. But when he saw their terror, then the fury departed from him, and he became appeased, and took of them in atonement their children Thjalfi and Roskva, who then became his bond servants, and they follow him ever since. End of Gylfaginning, sections 35 to 44. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine.